So yesterday, I hurt myself using my table saw, and it was an injury that was entirely avoidable and one I was really familiar with the possibility of having happen, which made it, let's say, more embarrassing to have happen. Because of that, I thought I'd make this quick video, though I'm not one usually for making videos about carpentry, construction, or safety for that matter, to explain how this happened in order that if anyone does watch this, you might know how to not have it happen. And the first thing I want to say is that this injury, like any that you can anticipate the mechanism for, is as much a consequence of a series of decisions, poor decisions, as it is of any mechanics or any danger in using a table saw or any other saw. Table saws are dangerous. All saws are dangerous, but they can be used safely. So what happened? Well, the kind of injury I incurred is a kickback injury. That is to say, the table saw threw a piece of wood at me really, really hard, really, really fast. And as you can see, it hit my head a little bit. That wasn't the real painful part, just scratch there on its way up to the ceiling where it crashed into something. So I'm gonna flip the camera around and then continue. Okay, so this is the worst injury. It was to my hand, and here's what I was doing. I'm making rails for cabinet doors, like this one. And I'm starting with raw lumber that looks something like this, that came off of my sawmill, and that I am then planing on the planer after I've cut it down to size on the table saw. But some of the pieces, this is a good example, have some real bulges and curves and inconsistencies that are kind of a pain to put through a million passes on the planer. So my solution to that is to pass them through right here like so, and this is the offending piece, to shave off part of the side. Now, kickback injuries happen when a piece of wood that's at the blade gets caught by these back teeth, which are angling upwards, and then propelled out. And they happen with a lot of force, and I knew how dangerous they could be because Beth, my friend, had been using a table saw in Brevard a year ago and had that happen to her and had it absolutely cut open her arm badly. We had to go to the ER. So I knew what the dangers were. Now, the first thing you can do to make a table saw not kick back at you is to use it with its safety equipment. Sorry, that loud noise is me getting out with my left hand. This big guy typically mounts over the blade, over here, and he's got these big pawls on him. What happens is a piece of wood slides through those pawls, it gets caught like this, and these teeth grab it and prevent it from going back in the wrong direction. I had taken that off the table saw in order to use a dado blade, which is a blade that cuts a groove inside of a piece of wood. And that way I could have a groove in wood. To do that, because the piece of wood has to go over the top of the blade, I've taken this safety device off. Here's my dog. He's also gimpy for totally different reasons. Now, because I know about this danger, the thing I ordinarily do, and here's the second big error I made, is I would stand back to the side of the saw so that my hands would be over here, and if there were kickback, it would certainly miss me since it would want to go in this direction. But I've been using the planer a lot. Wasn't a lot of space between the saw and the planer, so that was inconvenient. Also, and this is important, I've been doing a lot of this, so I was pretty comfortable with it, and I was pretty tired, so I was paying less attention than I usually would, thinking through problems less than I usually would. Now, on this piece of wood, and I did finish the cut afterwards, so this is a little smoother than it was. I had done this side first. And because it was so irregular, I was like, let's do the other side too. That was the first mistake. Because here's what goes on. This side, of course, has this section on it that still needs to be made level or jointed with the overall surface. That means that when I'm pressing this piece of wood against the fence, I've got this big gap. So now I push it, right through, past the blade. Everything's going well. But look what happens when I get to about here. Now there's room, and this can get pushed further. As I do that, I'm exerting outward pressure on the blade. And as that happened, when the blade hit the next section to cut, over here with this there, this pushed this in, this pushes out, this starts to rise up with the, so this is pushing in, right? This begins to want to push out. The blade is under tension. The blade is also turning like that. You can hear it wanting to grab that wood. So it grabs the wood, lifts it, starting the calamity. The wood now catches above the blade, right? I'm already in trouble. And then I think it must have been further like this. Because then, and we can see the evidence of it under here on the wood, the blade caught the underside, right? So this begins to come across and cut. And at some point, this gets chucked. This gets chucked back at me. My hand, of course, is right here. So as that happens, the piece of wood comes into my hand. My hand takes the brunt of that force. And I have to say, I'm super lucky that I can move all these digits that are still attached. Nothing broke, a lot of swelling. Thumb kind of hurts. Pinching causes, I don't have a lot of strength there even today. But I think it'll be better in a couple days. This then proceeds to come up after it hits my hand. That glances it upwards, hits my head, and keeps going. So, the net result of this, of course, is that, well, first, I find myself in excruciating pain, look to make sure that my hand is actually still intact, see a little bit of bleeding, nothing too terrible. The little Band-Aid is bled a little worse than a flap, so it's there. But, you know, basically just 2 contusions. Scratch on my head I'm not even aware of really at that moment. Jump out, do things, ice it, so on and so forth. So how could I have done this safer, besides, you know, paying attention? Well, the first thing is I think it's probably was unwise to try to do 2 sides of this piece of wood this way, period. I should have taken the win with getting one side better reduced. That would have reduced the chances of having this like really nice cavity right there to go away, and I've been a little better off. The second thing, of course, is I should have put this device, try to get it with the screen this way, just lift it up. I should have had the anti-kickback tool where it belonged on the saw. Third thing, of course, is I should have been standing behind the saw or off to the side. And this is really, when I went to complete the cut, it was to actually do it with the right tool. And I'm going to show you the right tool now. So the right tool is something like this. This is a Grabber Pro by Miles Craft push block. And what it does is it can sit on top of a piece of wood. And now, as you can see, I can put full pressure on this piece of wood as I slide it. By its very design, it has me standing off to the side. Now, if I use this, I can't also use that at the same time, at least not with the blade guard on it, because as we can see, this device would get in the way of this. So it really is kind of a choice. Either I'm going to use this push block, or I'm going to use my kickback protection. But with the push block, first of all, as you'll see already, I'm standing off here to the side of the table saw. Now normally I don't stand on this side of the table saw if I don't have this, because I don't want my fingers to be on top of the blade like that. That's terrifying. It's much better to be coming, if I'm doing that, to be on the other side. My fingers would be here. But this isn't really, though it's possible, the best angle for that. It should really be in front of the fence, and then I can push this across. If this were to fly up, which it really shouldn't in this configuration, there's no Jacob Paul standing right there to get hit. And because I have pressure evenly on top of it, it really isn't gonna get started in the first place to let that danger happen. Well, I don't know if a conclusion is necessary, but this is all to say, if you're gonna use a table saw, especially for trickier types of cuts, especially with short pieces of wood that are thin, so you have less control at the back of the piece of wood as it's going across, and you have more chances for it to get pinched between the fence and the blade in the first place because of its size. You really do not want to do it casually, and you do want to use something like this push block or this protection device plus some kind of push block to make it a little safer. Thank you.